What's up, everyone? I'm back to talk about Mileena and the story of Mortal Kombat 1. A story where they pretended to care about developing her character just to do a 180 and Fortnite default dance on us. At least, that's what I picture them doing in the studio when they wrote the later parts of the game. And it's a shame to me, because I thought this was a great opportunity to do a retelling of Mileena's story in a modernized way. Back in the day, in the original Midway and MK9 timelines, Shao Kahn conquered the realm of Edenia, killing King Jared, taking Sindel as his wife, and Kitana as his adopted daughter. However, Kitana was not his true daughter, and he could not count on her to be loyal. So, he had his quote-unquote loyal servant Shang Tsung create a clone of Kitana in his flesh pits, which now became Mileena fans grew to know and love. Mileena was set to be a contrast to Kitana, for since Kitana was good, Mileena was evil. Where Kitana was naturally beautiful, Mileena was part Tarkatan, showing a very lustful body to mimic her beauty while wearing a pink mask in her outfits to disguise the fact she had a vicious, Baraka-like mouth. She has been shown to have thoughts of feeling unaccepted and out of place due to being a monstrous clone, and these feelings are exactly what I think should be explored in further detail in the new Mortal Kombat 1 timeline. As it currently stands in the Mortal Kombat 1 game, Mileena is older sister between her and Kitana, being next in line to take the throne of Outworld once Sindel passes on or steps down. There are already a couple big changes here, as Mileena and Kitana are now legitimately sisters, and Mileena was not born Tarkatan. However, at some point before the game begins, Mileena catches Tarkat while slipping away from their palace one night, a lethal infliction that catches and deteriorates the user's mind and body, giving her once again Baraka-like teeth. However, she's able to fight the disease using serums provided by Shang Tsung. This is not a permanent solution though, and will only contain the situation when her Tarkat inside comes out in certain intense situations. She has been implied to have romantic interest in Tanya, their loyal Umgadi guard, is shown to be a very strong character in the story after defeating people like Ermac, Dark Raiden, and Evil Sindel, and in general has displayed insecurities about herself, similar to how the previous iteration of Mileena felt like she didn't belong anywhere. Right off the bat, I'm going to say I've never been a die-hard fan of Mileena before, but really like a lot of the changes or story setups presented. What am I getting at? Mileena and Kitana are both seen as beautiful ladies in their realm, which would be something that's important to them as time went on. Mileena therefore losing that aspect of herself, whether to outsiders or her own self-image, makes the Tarkat accident more tragic. Her forbidden and alluded to romance with Tanya, while more so seen as not allowed due to her status of being Umgadi, makes her desired connection have big parallels to the feeling of lesbian relationships being taboo to some. While being shown to want the throne in the game, and deeply razzled at the thought of Kitana ruling instead of her, the weight and burden of her life and unexpected duties as royalty clearly got to her, as she at least snuck out the night she got caught with Tarkat. All of these things amount to Mileena being someone that is not confident in herself, feels out of place, and insecure. She now has to grapple with dealing with Tarkat and losing some of her beauty, having a taboo relationship or feelings with Tanya, knowing many people prefer Kitana to take the throne over her, herself having beef with Kitana over paranoia that she wants to rule instead of her, and she feeling conflicted over her imperial duties and maybe even her capabilities as a leader. Having her arc in this new storyline then be about overcoming these obstacles and coming to terms with accepting herself to be a great leader of Outworld is a great idea that I was really down for. Some fans are upset she was not born with Tarkat or Tarkatan, but I personally think they are viewing too heavily on Tarkat being Mileena instead of just being a part of her character. Similar to Shao being General and not Khan. I implore fans that love previous versions of the character to be open to the new side of them that they're trying to show. So what's the big deal then? Well, take all those ideas and people who thought that setup was pretty good and say, fuck you. By the end of the game, and the end of her tower ending, a lot of these conflicts are already resolved. With Sindel dead, Mileena is now the ruler of Outworld. Not only does she go out of her way to meet with Baraka and help Tarkatans, she reveals to the world and Outworld she herself as Tarkat, and with the aid of people like Kitana backing her, all is going well. So now she's 1. Clearly ruling, despite being something that was a, well, will she end up ruling? Question presented in the story, with Jared coming back. 2. Seems to be accepting herself, as she felt confident enough to show Baraka and the rest of Outworld she is Tarkat. 3. Appears to be on great standings with Kitana, since Kitana helped persuade people to accept Mileena. 4. Is taking action as a leader, whether it's helping Tarkatans or being accepted by the people to show she's doing well in that regard. Everything is basically resolved by the end, with the biggest thing left to explore being her relationship with Tanya. I don't know about you, but having her arc for the upcoming games just be about romancing Tanya does not sound interesting in the slightest. Maybe they won't do that. Maybe they'll have her do other stuff, or go back to her dealing with Tarkat somehow getting worse. Okay, then why did you not show that, and why did you have it all set up where her issues get wrapped up and resolved by the end of the story? Because now if they go back on these changes, What was the point of it then? What was the point of Mortal Kombat 12 being marketed as Mortal Kombat 1 if they do the same bullshit of writing themselves into a corner and not drawing out storylines to be properly explored and told in a compelling way? It's very frustrating as an MK fan watching them do the same thing and making the same mistakes over and over, especially considering they chose to sacrifice development for characters like Mileena in place of giving us multiverse stuff and Titan Havoc. Womp womp. So what would I do differently in the story? If I haven't made it clear, I really like the setup of Mileena's character being centered around self-acceptance and want to properly give that the love it deserves. So Mortal Kombat 1, being the supposed first entry to this new story, should just establish and create, not resolve. Not only that, I want Mileena to once again be an antagonist, though not a villain, to the story. Similar to Shao, I want her motives to be more relatable and sympathetic, and leaves the door open for her to come to peace with herself, the world, Tarkat, or maybe then become a villain if her resolve isn't strong enough. One big change I'd make is that when the Earthrealmers interrupt her treatment from Shang Tsung, this now has lasting repercussions. Instead of her mouth being able to physically keep changing back and forth from Tarkatan to normal due to the serum, I wanted to permanently, or at least for the foreseeable future, have a Tarkatan mouth as a result of the serum being delayed. As well, I want some, though not all, of her senses to be permanently altered from the delay, which can now explain her anger and resentfulness looking forward to the future. I think setting it up in the later games, where Mileena discovers her affliction is slowly killing her and getting worse and addling her mind, could further be a great turning point and issue for her to resolve, where the idea of her falling victim to the disease could be very much real. With her mind slightly altered, she could have a genuine contempt for Earthrealm now, feel further alienated from herself, and could even point fingers at people like Shao for not properly monitoring and defending her during the treatment. Next, I want to establish that by Mileena's chapter, Tanya has been missing in action. This is because in my Havoc video, I mentioned how I wanted Tanya to be captured by Reiko and Havoc to be used as a hostage or a bargaining tool in the future, which I'll explain a bit more later. She's very much aware that Tanya is missing, and is stressed even further that our romantic interest is not there to comfort her. But at least for now, she's able to push through and help stop Shang Tsung. She shows up, reconnects with Jared after defeating Ermac, confronts Shang with the rest, and I have no problem being strong in the series. I think her being presented as powerful is actually a cool direction for her character, making her a formidable adversary. They confront Shang, they can fight both him and Quan Chi as the statue armies help attack, Titan Shang is revealed, shit goes down like normal. However, I mentioned in my Raiden video, things go a bit different from here. I would more so want Mileena, Sindel, and Ermac to fight evil Sindel, while the others can fight statues and Dark Raiden. It really doesn't make sense for Mileena to fight Dark Raiden here, for what I explained before. Sindel dies, the evil Sindel, Mileena beats her, and Ermac is a lot more prevalent and important here, as he is key to trying to stop the statue army, which is the main threat with Titan Shang, and the whole Armageddon and more than two timeline thing just doesn't happen. I want to make note, I think it's a really dumb how Mileena in this chapter can basically go Tarkat sicko mode, but still maintain her mind fully enough to not attack her allies. It doesn't really make sense and is inconsistent with the previous showings, and I think her just being permanently in partial Tarkat mode physically with a slightly mended mind makes a lot more sense here. After Titan Shang is defeated, this is where I want things to get spicy again and leave plot points open for the next games. Ermac, who is now fully Jared, returns with Mileena and Katana to Outworld. Mileena is thinking she will now be queen, and trying to deal with both that and her mother's death. But upon their return, or perhaps at Sindel's funeral, the question is now raised. Should Jared return to rule, or should Mileena now be the new queen? I think the Imperials of Outworld, or a huge public outcry, could call for Jared, even if he doesn't agree or want to rule. But Mileena could go into panic and shock upon hearing this, and run off, leaving Jared and Katana unsure on how to proceed or comfort their loved one. Overall, it's a sad day for Outworld. Their queen is now dead. Jared is back through unnatural means, even if they are happy with his return. Their war with Sado, that I mentioned in previous videos, is growing and looming. Their princess Mileena is still unpopular, and this could all be happening even without them fully knowing she has Tarkat. Imagine what it would be like though if they did. So Titan Shang is defeated, but the outlook of Outworld is still bleak and uncertain. I personally think the future games or DLC, I would have it where Jared is the one made king. At this point, it's very clear Mileena is not in a fit condition to rule. It may seem ironic considering Jared's condition, but he was always loved and is still very much a stable-minded person to lead them through these uncertain times. The reason Tanya is in captivity is because I think it could be used in a situation like this. Say Reiko had Tanya and is willing to release her if Shao is released from prison before they needed him in the State of War, like I mentioned in my Shao video. Mileena could be enthused about this, but Jared rejects the trade. As well, Li Mei is reinstated as head Umgadi. Why? For the Li Mei decision, Tanya has been MIA and someone needs to lead them. Jared also has clearly stated in Mileena's chapter that Li Mei is not at fault for what happened to him, so he does not have any animosity or blames her. Even without that though, in his eyes, Tanya is the reason why Mileena caught Tarkat. Disregarding the practical discussion of trading a traitor of Outworld, being General Shao, for Tanya, he could personally have a reason to dislike her for failing to protect his daughter. I'll explain this more later when I go over how it would change Mileena's tower ending, but the point is, there is now further conflict and tension Mileena has with Outworld and the current rule, and even her family, and would help set up her eventually leaving Outworld to oppose them later with Tanya. So what's going on or has changed by the end of MK1 with these changes made? Sindel's dead, Jared is likely being set up to rule the next game, Mileena feels alone now more than ever without Tanya, and the loneliness, hate, and resent she feels is only amplified by the Tarkat whispering in her head. It's being set up where she will let her hate consume her for the foreseeable future and turn against Outworld, feeling as though they have turned against her. She also, mind you, still doesn't feel fondly with Earthrealmers either, and largely blames them for her lingering Tarkat. Tanya is still captured, and with it being implied she'll be left to rot for Reiko for a bit, and has lost her lead Umgadi status to Li Mei. This could give her beef with Li Mei, Jared, while also still being the one to love and accept Mileena. They could also basically run off together, Tanya and Mileena, to impose Outworld as again not villain, but antagonist. All this inter-realm conflict going on, while a war with Sato is casting a dark shadow, it isn't a happy ending for anyone. They're not eating at Madame Bo's or anything, but there is a sign that Titan Shang was only the beginning of their troubles. To me, it's a lot more of an organic setup for the games than what we currently have. Lastly, I want to go over what I do differently with Mileena's tower ending. I already spoke about how I do not like the current one, as it actively works against almost all the setup the main game had for Mileena, resolving it all in one fell swoop. Instead, I want the ending to show what happened on the night Mileena escaped the palace and caught Tarkat. Maybe in the middle of the night, she disappears. Tanya, who's in charge of Umgadi and wants her to be safe, is alerted or even sees it herself, and follows Mileena. When they catch up though, despite initially insisting they go back, Mileena convinces Tanya to stay with her and enjoy the night looking at the stars for a bit. Tanya agrees, when later on, they are attacked by those fully consumed by Tarkat, where Mileena is infected. I think this is infinitely better as it pushes forward their connection and relationship more by giving them further development, gives an answer to how Mileena caught Tarkat, and shows Tanya compromised her position as being the formal Umgadi leader sworn to protect the princess of Outworld for a casual night with someone she's falling in love with. This shows flaws in her ability to stay objective and gives Jared a reason to generally not like or trust Tanya, while Mileena can still see it being unfair. The ending doesn't resolve anything, it only adds further layers. That's the end of the video. If you're a Mileena fan and you hated everything I just said, feel free to bully me and call me mean names. Just please don't chew my throat out or throw me in the netherrealm. If you did enjoy the video, or parts you disagree with, feel free to let me know in the comment section. I'm not saying my ideas are perfect, but for the direction I think both NRS and myself want Mileena to go, these at least take steps to properly walk that path instead of fighting against it. I'd like to make my next video about Reiko, but until then, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.